Hello and welcome, everybody. Clearly, I am not in Jerry. She will be showing up. She's on the highway right now on the way from work. I'm Tomi, and I'm going to be turning it over to Musical Tati for your reading session.
Hold on. Is it saying we're live? Okay, there's the ad. We're live. Okay. Hi. Trying to make sure everything is squared away. There we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started. If you are reading Wildseed, let's see how many people are on with us now. We have 6 people here. So what's up? We are going to go ahead and get started with a sprint. And we're going to go, let's say, for 30 minutes. And who knows? And Jerry may meet us here by the time we're finished. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi. I'm having to chat in 2 separate places because this is in Jerry's channel. So I'm chatting with you all on my phone. So let me put in a note. Starting a 30-minute sprint at 05. We'll say 05. So that gives us 4 minutes for more people to come in. How's everybody's Friday? It's Freddy Krueger Day. It is Friday the 13th. I hope you all had a good work week and are ready for this weekend, because I am. So hi, Christina. Ooh. So glad to see all of you here. I will be reading Wildseed tonight. I am in the bind up because I haven't. Hi, Jacob. I haven't brought in Introverted Black Girl. You're gonna have to remind me of what your IRL name is, because I've been ready to call you Introverted Black Girl every single time. Hi, Sky. So I am starting this. I'm actually on in chapter 5, but this is a reread for me. But I wanted to reread it and try to catch up to where some of you all were last week so that I make sure I don't spoil things as I'm talking, because that's important, because I don't want to spoil this for you all. Hi, and Jerry. And Jerry is on the way. Yeah. So we're starting our sprint in 3 minutes, and Jerry, we're going to give people some more time to get in and get comfortable, get you a drink. Leah, thank you. Thank you. Get you a drink, get settled, get relaxed, and we're going to read and have a nice old time and a little bit of discussions. So 2 more minutes. I'm going to do the timer on my phone, as opposed to whatever pretty thing and Jerry had up last week with the little timer going. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Bernie. Is that a speed racer car in Jerry? All right. Let's go to my timer. One minute. Regina has lemonade. I have whiskey that I left in my room. I'll go get it on the next break. Chips, salsa, and wine. Yes. And yes to wine. Having ourselves a late little happy hour. You like it. All right. So we have 1 minute, actually 10 seconds. And we are going to start our sprint. We're going to go for 30 minutes. And we will talk when the 30 minutes is over and say hello to the beautiful face that is in Jerry. Enjoy your reading. And that is 30 minutes, my friends. Welcome to the stream, and Jerry. You're muted.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I made it. And so did you. Tati, did you? So I guess, as you know, Tatiana of Musical Tati is here with us. Tati is my friend in real life. And also co-host of the OEB Slow Read. And yeah, so what we've done in the past is, as you know, we've started off with just like, where are people at right now? And one word to describe how you're feeling about what you're reading right now. So if you want to start with that, what page are you on, or what percent of the story have you listened to or read over or your whatever device, and one word to describe where you're at. I confess I have not finished part one, even though I had hoped. Yes, Tommy definitely came in for the win. I had hoped to be finished with part one before our discussion today, because according to the schedule, I was supposed to start part two, but I am unfortunately only on page 136. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm 3 pages away from book two.
Yay!
Okay, good.
Okay, so wait, what chapter is that? Because I'm in the
Chapter 6. So I'm
okay. Well, I am just okay.
Yeah, so I'm on page 136, and book two starts in 5 pages. I actually thought that it started on page 160. So I'm scratch everything. I'm winning. So that's where things are at. And I thought it might be nice. And Tati, I'm looking at you here. I thought it might be nice to have a conversation about part one, because part one is called Covenant. And one of the reasons why I was really hoping that you would be here for this particular one was because the books are named after biblical themes, right? So part one is Covenant. Part two is it Lot's children? Yeah, Lot's children. And then part three is called Canaan. And part four, what's part four called? Something. And also Octavia Butler, Octavia Estelle Butler she enjoyed writing about and thinking about theological themes and religions and so on, and Christianity in particular is featured a lot in her work, in addition to Yoruba. So I was hoping that we could have a conversation about the concept of covenant, and I thought you would be an excellent person to do that with, given what part one gives us.
Sure. Covenant, or if you don't know, in terms of like the Bible, covenant is like a promise. It's a contract that two groups of people create amongst themselves, whether it is expressly spoken or in deed. And I find it's this meeting of, it's not even a meeting of the minds, because Anyanwu and Doro are very different, but also very similar. Like, as I'm rereading this, I'm noticing things that I didn't notice the first time. Like how many times Anyanwu's constant refrain to herself is, "You and I are not alike," or "We are not the same." Something of that. And Doro just says nothing, because Doro's an asshole, but also Doro believes that they are more alike than they are different. And it's this mutual agreement that they have made, without anyone saying what is actually going to happen, that I'm going to come with you. I'm going to help you get through these villages, and then you're going to help me get to wherever you want me to be, so that I can be yours as long as you want me to be yours, before you hand me off to someone else or find another use for me. Yeah. I am very, because I have just gotten to, I don't want to spoil anything. 11 pages away from book 2. Looks like everybody is in chapter 6. Okay, because I'm in the middle of chapter 5, where Leo has just provided a feast for Anyanwu, and one of the things that
I love how you said that.
the description of him is just so, like, there's no, he's ugly.
Vile,
Not
and there are
a
no
single
redeeming
one,
qualities.
and he is butt ugly. The fact that Anyanwu, who has this very sweet countenance about herself, says, like, he's the lesser of all of the sons if looks were a factor. Like, he's butt ugly, and not just in how he looks, but also how he acts and how he is willing to violate others. Your thoughts. You talk, because I could keep going.
You should.
And then I've just gotten to the point again, because one of my favorite things that you talked about it last week, and Cabe has some very wonderful insights on Anyanwu becoming the fish. Leo is despicable, but not for long. Yum yum. And the whole, like, what's always shared but never expressly stated. It's only been expressly stated like maybe twice up to this point, by Doro, is that, go ahead, come at me. I ain't been a woman in a long time. Like, you can kill me, but I'm gonna kill you back. And that, that whole, you can't have a true relationship like that. And even though there's this whole thing about Doro saving these Africans from the slave trade, the traditional slave trade, but they belong to him. They are no longer, even though they're not being molested and beat and chained, and they have the freedom to walk among the ship, they're not their own person. They belong to Doro. And there's a lot. I think what struck me the first time I read this was how much Octavia Butler just put out there the fact that Black folk, Africans, actively participated in the slave trade, and that was not something that was well known to a lot of Black folk. I don't know about white folk, but as far as our history goes, but that was not known to a lot of Black folks. And she just threw that out there. And I can only imagine the first time that that this book came out and people were reading it, because Wildseed came out after Pattern Master was released, done. This was like, the Pattern Master was written first, and then the other books were written. So people had already read and fallen in love with Pattern Master, and they get Wildseed, and these Africans who are selling their own people into slavery. I can only imagine the mental uproar that caused for a lot of Black readers during that time frame. And I wonder whether or not they researched, if they didn't know, to see that she didn't just pull that out of her hind parts.
Yeah, that last little set of words sentence. Yeah, and I think for me, in thinking about the word covenant, and why you would, like, why out of everything that happened in these first 6 chapters would Octavia Estelle Butler call this covenant, right? So, because what happens at a high level in book 1? In book 1, we meet Doro. He is upset about the devastation of one of his seed villages, and he decides to travel to another one, and in doing so he realizes there's a being with a signature that surprises him. He finds this being, it's Anyanwu. He meets Anyanwu and decides that Anyanwu belongs to him, and he needs to figure out a way for her to join him long enough so that he can optimize his offspring. And so she decides, he makes an agreement with her under false pretenses, and she joins him, unbeknownst to her of his false pretenses, and then they travel across the Middle Passage and end up, is it New York that they're in? Where are they again?
I think they end up in,
they end up somewhere in the U.S.
Yeah, they pass Ellis Island. I think they end up in New York.
Okay, I thought because
it's hard for me to answer that.
Yeah. So they end up in New York, and in that passage, right? So what I find, whenever I read Octavia Butler, I always ask myself why. She's masterful, right? As a writer, she's masterful, and every decision that she makes is deliberate. So why does she give us this? So first, I think that this book and series is a gift, because when I think of all of the stories that I've read about the Middle Passage, right? Like there's so many myths and legends about that time. And there are all these questions, right? Like, why would Africans sell each other? Like how does the monstrosity of the transatlantic slave trade, how does that shift the other monstrosities that were happening at the time, right? Like, how do we make sense of all of that? How did people survive the Middle Passage? What was it like to end up in this new world under bondage? And what were the prospects for freedom and emancipation, right? And so she does amazing things, right? Like she layers on top of that all of these other relationships plus immortality to complicate those questions, right? Like
and the decision of there's a conscious decision of Doro to make sure that these people are connected, because on the stories that we hear of the Middle Passage, nobody's with their original clans people. They can't speak the same languages, so they're not able to communicate. And there's a conscious effort to make sure that these Black people who are brought on, because the rest of his crew, even his sons, are white, except for him. There's this conscious effort to make sure that these Africans are able to communicate with each other in some way, shape, or form. If it's them being taught a little bit of English, or Anyanwu being taught a little bit of English, and then communicating with Okoye and his wife, whose name is escaping me. Oh my God, Okenkwo. Something along there, making sure that they're able to, communicate and connect with each other, so that even if they can't speak the same language, they can learn each other's actions and be able to communicate that way by facial expressions and things. That's something that's a big difference from what actually happened in the Middle Passage.
Mm-hmm. And so out of all of that, why is this called Covenant, right? And I, what is the big promise? Like what is, because ultimately
to breed. That's
right.
I feel like that's Doro's focus. Who and then two, who is the covenant for? Is it covenant for Doro or for Anyanwu or for both?
Yeah. So I think what this does is, what the title of the book one does is it orients us to think about commitments, trust, reciprocity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time I think about that, all I hear in my head is nope, nope, and nope, right? Like none of that is happening right now.
Right.
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 And that's what I think, that's what it does. I think it's ironic. I think it's sarcastic. And why would Octavia, because she likes the middle name used, why would Octavia Estelle Butler put us in such a compromising position, right? And a lot of people say that out of all of her series, this one is the hardest and most traumatic for people to manage. Simply because
is that what's said?
A lot of people say that
wow.
this is the hardest for them to manage. Like, okay. Yeah, and I think I was surprised by that because I thought it would be Lilith's brood, but but you know what I think it is though? I think because Lilith's brood involves aliens, and so aliens, because we haven't yet encountered them in our experience, we can chalk a lot of what they do. I know, but commonly, I know you have. But I mean, commonly, it's not yet part of, the common experience. So we can always say, yeah, but Owen Collie aren't real, right? But Doro's an immortal, yes, but he's closer to our experience. He appears humanoid, and certainly the monstrosities that we're experiencing in the text, that it's much more accessible than anything else. And certainly the brutality of breeding humans.
Mm-hmm. And having to kill those that are abominations, whatever he considers abominations.
Right.
There's a difference that we're going to see for those. You're going to see more of that as we go through.
Exactly.
But, Cabe and Sherry are on the same page as far as that Doro's promise to Anyanwu was that he would give her children that would not die. So they're saying that is the covenant. And I've read this book. This is my second time reading it. I totally missed that. So this is the beauty of reading with other people. Excuse me. Excitement.
So if you come with me, I will give you children that will never die. Don't you want children that you will not have to mourn?
To bury, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
a mother should never bury her children, should never have to mourn her children, and which is still a problem today, but okay. Also, the totally tangential to the covenant discussion, but I was thinking about how much we hate Doro, and I still hate Doro, but how old Doro is and what Doro has seen. And the fact that Doro was his first death was at age 13. Age 13, 3,000 years ago. So we don't know what life expectancy was back then. But that has an effect. And then living 3,000 years, just jumping from skin to skin.
Yeah. So, I like that. I liked that chat. I'm feeling good about that because as we move into Lot's children, and I'm not Bible literate today, So I don't even remember who Lot's children were and what all that stuff.
I would have to reread that myself because I don't spend a lot of time in the Torah. So
right. So so yeah, there's that. So yeah. So what do we want to do? I'm wondering how people are feeling. So in the chat, because this is kind of the first, like, this is the first chat that we'll be finishing apart and sort of moving on. Well, we'll should have finished apart, moving on to the next one. And I think it might be a really good time also to get some of your feedback on just how these slow reading sessions are going. So if you would like to provide some feedback as we go through today, please, not like, you can always say like, oh, this is great, or no, I hate it, which I doubt that's the case because you wouldn't be here. But like, what would you like to see differently? And also, if you're interested in being a guest as well, then let us know and we'll make sure that we include you. So do you think it's a good idea to do another sprint now?
Sure. Let me go get my whiskey.
Okay. While that's happening, let's see. Okay.
Acquired.
Yay. Bible study. Lot was Abraham's nephew. Okay. Okay, you're loving the rhythm of it. Okay, that's great to know. Thank you. And Christina, I think you've joined every single one from the beginning. So God's promise to Abraham was that he would give him many children and his name would be great, as many as the stars in the sky. So who was the one who had all, you know what I remember this from? Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. For some reason,
Joseph, what you gonna do?
So yes, I also know all the songs to that. So I feel like this is reminding me of something, but even though I don't even know why. Okay, so the 30-minute sprints. Okay, so that's 30 minutes. Seems like Catherine, you have a whiskey sister in Catherine.
Yay.
Okay, that's good. So you did join us. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that you all are enjoying it, because I will be completely honest, when Jerry asked me, my first response.
Say it with your whole chest, Tati.
My first response was no. Because I was like, this is one hell of a commitment. And I literally thought about it. It may have been 30 minutes that I thought about it. And I was like, wait a minute. This is a lot of people reading Octavia Butler. Yes. So I'm glad that you all are enjoying the slow read, because for years I have just wanted more people to read Octavia Butler so I could talk about her with more people, and this is giving my soul so much happiness. So yay.
All right. So it seems like 30 minutes is a good amount of time to read. So why don't we do that? I'm actually going to cheat and put 35. I'll start it, but because I need to get a snack.
Okay.
But we'll start it and then we'll do 35 minutes. So yes, I will find the 35-minute timer.
Yes, put the magic on the screen, because I didn't do that. I just went with my phone.
Okay, and then we will 35-minute. Do people? Oh my God, there actually is a 35-minute timer. Of course there is, because you can find everything you want and don't want on YouTube. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so you have 5 minutes to get a snack and then 30 minutes for reading. Okay, let's start it. So no second. Okay. All right. See you in 35 minutes and happy reading. Okay. I need to get a t-shirt that says Mike is muted.
No, I need to get a t-shirt.
Oh,
You need to
Doro.
read it. So you're in Lot's Children?
I sure am. I will admit that for a few seconds this week, I thought just for this show I would get a t-shirt that said Team Doro, hashtag Team Doro.
Oh my
and wear
gosh.
it just for you. But then I realized what it would mean. And I thought,
that you did.
I really can't. Like, and I'm like, now that I'm on chapter 7, I'm really glad I didn't do that. All right, everyone. So that's the second half hour for today.
Are you in this, Bree?
What's that?
Are you in? Bree says she's on page 87. If you're in this, I'm on page 88. I did just start last night though. So, but we're here. We're here. You're good.
We are here. So let's see what people. I think this is the last. This was the last. I think this is where we were. Yeah, I rush. I will say that at some point I'm going to do a video about like how BookTube has changed my reading, because I think that's important. And I've seen people do that kind of video, and I find it very interesting because BookTube has changed my reading. But I do like the slow read, and there's so much going on. I don't know who said this last time. I think it might have been Erica. But there's so much going on in what Octavia Butler writes that, reading slowly and pausing and just being like, okay, what just happened, is really pleasurable and important, I think, in grasping. But I do still feel like Octavia is elusive. Her meaning is elusive. So Lot's Wikipedia page is interesting. Yes, I have heard of that. I do want to do a haul of some Octavia E. Butler readers to help with the slow read, because I'm curious about what people say about her writing. So yeah, if you know of any, put them in the chat so people can explore them. Yeah, he does.
Several
seeds.
He could become a seed.
He could. Is anybody listening to or doing a hybrid read? Because I am, and the Audible is so good. And
I don't have Audible. I mean, I probably could still get it because it's not a new book. It's probably available. I do most of my audiobooks through Libby, so that probably would not be an issue.
Okay, so 87. She's in the bind.
She's all like.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. So she's that much to go to get to book 2.
That's good. Okay. Also, hi, Bree. All the people who were guests on the slow read are here. That's nice.
Yes.
Yeah, you're on page 1 of Lot's Children. Jerry, sweetheart. Yeah.
I have nothing to say.
He's his self-righteousness. You know what? Doro also reminds me of like Hotep's.
Yes, I was waiting for you to say that last week. I just knew that it was going to come out last week. Yes.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yes.
No, it's not. Who am I kidding? From time to time, a hotep shows up in my YouTube comments, and it's so fun. It's fun.
Y'all, she reads them fulfilled in a nice and educated way. Like they don't even realize that they dirty.
Yeah, it's great.
And they need to take a shower.
Really Chapter 7, it's something. Yeah, I just finished chapter 7, and I don't know exactly what happened. I really hope that what I think happened, but I'm not sure yet. So I'll have to find out. I can totally hear you saying this.
But I need you to understand, Doro is what Doro has. He keeps saying that whole, it's been a long time since I've been a woman. Like he says it as a threat. But I low-key thinking, because he has been a woman, he said he has born children. But that's just, I can't say that. Never mind. Yeah. He would just like take you, Bree. Like he would come outside and then you would fall. Or no, he would fall and you would disappear.
So, you know, one of the things, just going back, I hope, I mean, if it's a spoiler, we'll just have to absorb the pain of that. But there's this one chapter where Doro reveals that when Anyanwu is in an animal form, he can't see her.
So there were 2 points and I refused I almost highlighted because I remember
you were almost drawn. You were almost drawn to annotate.
I did annotate. I annotated how I annotate with my sticky tabs that you can't see because my lighting is
biblical
garbage. Okay. There we go. I did annotate, but yeah, I couldn't remember if I have a Wildseed TikTok that I want to post. Bree, I am not ready. But post it anyway. I remember that being said, but in my head, okay, Anyanwu's going to learn it, that information.
Of course.
But in my head, she knew it before he said it. Like, I didn't realize that he had that, like, this whole brooding situation of how he's going to control her. And then he literally has a conversation within himself about why, or the benefits versus the consequences of killing her. Like, if he kills her and he takes her body, he won't be able to use her body as she uses her body, because he'll just have her body, and then that'll just be for a little time until it's time for him to get rid of that body, and then the whole usefulness of Anyanwu is gone. That whole, I detest Doro. I detest him.
I do too. Yeah, he can't control her, and also she can kill him. So anyway, that's very interesting.
Come over to the highlighting, and look, my oh shit, no, they're right here.
Think she will,
I was gonna say my mouth liners are so hidden, but no, they're right here.
Don't worry, we'll get you one day. Okay, so here's something. This is a difficult thing for me to talk about.
Okay.
But I have to talk about it because part of engaging Octavia Butler's work is about engaging with the good, the bad, the ugly, and all of that. We need to talk about her portrayal of Indigenous people, and we need to talk about why Octavia E. Estelle Butler has chosen not to complicate the portrayal of Indigenous people in this story?
Complicate how?
Complicate by, like, number one, not using stereotypical views of Indigenous people, not silencing Indigenous characters, leveraging and including in the text, and doing her research as she did with Christianity, leveraging what available knowledge she would have of the different cosmologies that are, Indigenous to people of Turtle Island, and have that be part of the story. Because what's happening now is that she's caricatured Indigenous characters, and I can't accept that. Like, I can't accept it. These individuals, these communities right now are only portrayed, except for one character, they're only portrayed through the lens of characters, through a colonial lens, regardless of who the characters are. Right? So we have a dinner conversation where the white members of Wheatley are talking about Indigenous people. We have one Indigenous daughter or member of the community there. But there are so many different references to Indigenous people throughout the story so far that are uncomplicated, that are stereotypical, that are colonialist, and I don't understand that choice, given all of the different ways that OEB has complicated a lot of other things. And I want to know what people think about that, because
I don't think she does anything unintentionally. I think
she doesn't do anything unintentionally.
Yeah, no, she doesn't do anything unintentionally, and I think it's done purposely to, just like the way Daly describes the Africans who are brought when they start the Middle Passage, just the way he describes and talks about the blacks that are brought to the ship to be taken across to the Americas. I think it's done on purpose to be or feel offensive, not to feel offensive necessarily to us, but to feel offensive to people who read this, who share those kinds of views, to see it on the page and see how degrading and ugly it is when it's put forth as clearly and plainly as some people choose to talk about Indigenous peoples, or people of other races, period, but particularly Indigenous peoples. And there are a lot. I have not read them. I have heard other people talk about them. Was it Robinson Crusoe? And there are stories in which the Indigenous people are discussed and talked about so poorly that it's been like, I've seen white people talk about it and they've been offended. So I think it's done on purpose to, like, have this come out of a black hand and see what people who have said this think about it.
So I think, so we accept that Octavia E. Butler is intentional and deliberate in her writing. And so if that's the case, we have to take all of that. Like, we have to, that has to be our guiding assumption, right? That she's doing this on purpose. And authors can show us the ugliness of humanity while at the same time providing a counter narrative. So here, she shows us colonization and the evil of colonization, but we're not seeing the N-word being thrown around, right? Like we did, and she's capable of that. We saw that in Kindred.
Kindred.
Right? So that's not happening. She shows us the brutality of
Doro has no use for anybody unless they are special. I'm reading Bree's comment. Not just indigenous people, anybody.
Yeah, but that's not the point, Tati. I think the point is that it's the point is that it's specific. There is something specific that's happening in the portrayal of indigenous people, and the fact that Doro doesn't care about anybody doesn't really change that, right? Like there could have been even an acknowledgement of whose land it is, right? So for example, when they talk about Wheatley and the Wheatley as a community and why Wheatley is called Wheatley now, but what it was called before, what I don't know what Irwin or Idris or some Gildridge or whatever. So the name, so we hear the name of Wheatley before it was Wheatley, but she doesn't take up the opportunity to talk about the land and the occupiers, the indigenous occupiers of that land prior to it being quote unquote it being settled, right? And and so they're like, I'm asking myself those questions, and I'm reading this while I'm reading Trail of Lightning by Rebecca
Roanhorse. Ooh.
And I'm reading this during during the readathon, the Indigenous readathon, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that's actually called.
Yeah, so I feel like right now, and I'm grateful for that, because I'm not sure that without Trail of Lightning, which is set in the US, which is a future US, whether I would notice such a stark difference, right? Like it would have, at first it was kind of uncomfortable, but then I'm like, wow, there's a pattern here. And so something's missing. So I have to, sorry?
That's so good.
What's
like the notice, because I would not have noticed that. I don't know if I would have noticed it on this second read. I know I didn't notice it on the first read, but I'm going to pay, once I get to that again, I'm going to pay more attention to that because of your statement.
So
because I think when I first read it, I was so used to Doro being so nonchalant about anybody who wasn't Doro or anybody who wasn't beneficial to him, that I didn't give it the weight that I probably should have given it. And again, that's why don't just read Octavia once.
And hashtag read Octavia slowly.
Yeah.
And she would want that engagement. I think that's a way to honor the work. And even when you talk, and so you notice, like I noticed the way that through Doro, we hear references to the English and references to the Dutch, and comparing Dutch lifestyle and English lifestyle, and the different ways that these colonizers approached African bodies, African lives, right? So we hear that, right? And we hear Doro and talk about class, and Isaac talk about class and all of that. So anyway, something to think about. And I think it is something I want to cover in the live show, because I think part of engaging her work is about holding the work accountable, and then looking at its value, not only as powerful work, but also as a cultural artifact that we now can critique lovingly, right? I think she would expect that of us.
Yeah, and this again just makes me wish that she were here, because these are questions that we could ask and that she would answer.
Yeah.
I truly believe, again, obsessed, but I truly believe that these are questions that we could ask, and she would answer plainly, and she wouldn't answer in a way that would be trying to make us feel good about what her answer is. She would just tell us give us her answer, and we, in a very Doro way, and we could deal with it.
For sure. I like what you're saying here, Bree. Dora also participates in forced assimilation, forced displacement, cultural erasure. Like when he tells her to change her language, give up everything for him, change her customs. Like, yeah.
And it can. I can't. There are so many things that I want to say. I will be glad when we get to the end of.
You're so right, Sherry. I noticed that we don't learn anything about the one Indigenous person at the table except that she's attracted to Doro.
Yeah.
What else would there be? What other pertinent facts?
But also because this is like Doro's, I feel like Doro's chapters or Doro's segments are extremely Doro, and Anyanwu's segments are Anyanwu, but Anyanwu in light of Doro, in deference to Doro. So I don't feel like one of the things that I said when I first read this and I reviewed it was that Anyanwu is the character that I didn't want to see come out of the pen of Octavia Butler, because at the point when I read Wildseed, I had already read so many strong female characters, and I struggle with Anyanwu. I struggle with her.
Yeah, I hear you. So just in terms of language, in the chat and also in terms of how we're communicating, I'm very careful. I don't use the term native. I consider that an inside term. So the term that I use to discuss Indigenous peoples is Indigenous peoples pluralized. So given that one of the
did I say native?
You didn't.
Oh, okay.
One of the ground rules in the OEB slow read is that this is going to be a space in which we support emancipation, right? So if you're going to be referring to Indigenous peoples in this conversation, don't use like natives, Indians, like those words. Just refer to Indigenous peoples as Indigenous peoples. What you do in your own life hopefully is motivated by that, but if you could do that here, that would be great. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, sure. Good. Yeah. It's okay. We just keep moving. And
please don't feel bad. Like, I screw up on things, and then Jerry constantly will just fix that.
Yeah. And
that's how we learn. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, it's we move through it, right? Okay, so we are at the 2-hour mark, and this is we've committed to keep you here for 2 hours. I know that we had an hour of reading, which was great.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you would like to say, Tati, before we close for this session?
No.
Okay.
There isn't. I plan to get through another. I'm so happy for these. I'm in a better space where I can read today, and so I am going to keep reading instead of picking up my Switch, and make some headway into the next section as well. But no, I can't. I'll be so happy when we discuss this, and then we get to y'all have no idea how excited this is. Of Octavia Butler's books, the last 2 books in this series are the only 2 books that I have left to read that I have not already read in her bibliography. So I am super excited to get to Mind of My Mind for the discussion point, but also to Clay's arc, because I haven't read that yet.
Oh, cool. All right. So thank you for that. So again, make sure that you have registered. We have over 600 people who have registered for the live show for Wildseed, which is amazing. So if you haven't yet registered, please find us on Instagram or Twitter, or you can just search hashtag OEB Slow Read and make sure you're registered. That will ensure that you have the link and access to everything. If you want to purchase any of the books, we would love for you to purchase them from Sister Sci-Fi, as well as other books and clothing and swag. So please do that. Tomi, feel free to rip that bag open to your heart's content. You're fine. This is your home. So there's definitely that. And again, if you are interested in being a guest on one of the slow reads, like I think we're going to be doing these live reads. Like I would like to do this for all of the books. If
this is so good. This is so good.
I'm so pleased. It's such a really nice way. And you know what I find? I find that because the way that I read is I try to do as much of my reading on like with you as possible. And when I let the story marinate, like when I have a good week between a chapter, so much comes up in my mind. Like it just starts to float around and marinate. And then I come back to the reading and I actually internalize it. Because usually I forget the names of characters and so on because I'm force reading. Like I'm just like stuffing it down my throat. Whereas now it's just like I'm sipping it and it feels wonderful, which I think is the best way to enjoy her work. Okay, let's just get these last little points up before we say goodbye, because I know you have a 2 hour. I am done. 2 hours with my, and then we are done.
I love you. Thank you.
Cabe Jackson. I know. I think you're most welcome, Christina. Anytime, Sarah, you're welcome. Oh, it's the thank yous. Yay! 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 Okay. All right, friends. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. We will see you again. Read Octavia slowly. Thank you for joining us. And read with purpose.
Bye. Bye.